What's up guys, today we're going to talk about drum mixing and which steps you can take in order to get clean drums for your track. I've prepared a small project with a simple groove to demonstrate the 4 most important things for a clean drum mix, at least in my opinion. The first step towards clean drum production is the sound selection. Which sounds am I going to use? Do the sounds have the proper quality and do they fit the track? Alright, and here as you can see I have 4 kicks to choose from, 5 claps, 3 hi-hats, and then just a little hi-hat loop to fill the space, and a instrumental, just 3 loops I put in just for demonstration purposes. I've routed every drum to an individual channel, so I can choose which kick I want by just turning it off and on, and which clap I want, and so on. I wouldn't do this in a production, but this is just to demonstrate the sound selection process. Let's just turn everything off except for the kicks and the instrumental, of course. Now this is the first kick I tried, pretty basic. Now the second kick. I think this has too much high end, especially for this track, it doesn't really fit. Now this third kick is also really nice, but I think this could get more high end because it's really damp, if you know what I mean. Off to the fourth kick. The fourth one really punches through. I think I like the first, third and fourth. I'm just gonna go through them and see what I like the most. I'm still gonna choose the first kick because I think it has the right clickiness and bass for this track. Let's get on to the claps. In my productions I never really use one clap. I often layer my claps with at least 2 to 3 claps. So it's gonna be a bit more friggly to choose from these claps, but we're just gonna try them. Right, this clap's really soft, but it could act as a kind of wider layer. This is a perfect, just basic clap, really short and snappy. We want something short here, I think, to accentuate the groove. Clap 3 is really similar to clap 2, but a bit longer, a bit more body. Could be cool as a layer as well. Clap 4 is really short and tiny, but it could also act as a cool layer to snap, because it has this snap transient. Now clap 5. I think clap 5 right off the bat is a bit too long for this tune. Let's just take the basic clap from before because that's a great starting point, I think. Right, let's layer that with something wider like clap 3. Just the same clap basically but a bit wider. Oh no, I didn't hear that. Clap 3 has this in the end. Now I don't like that, but I like the clap, so let me just shorten this down. This could work. Right, now I'm gonna take the fourth clap, the snappy one, and layer it as well. Right, and these 3 claps I think have the right bounce for this track. Off to the hi-hats. I already got this hi-hat loop. Keeps the groove going. Let's choose from these 3 hi-hats now. Hi-hat 1. Solid, hi-hat 2. This is more like a hip-hop hi-hat. It's really sharp and tiny, but it could work in this mix. Now hi-hat 3. Now this is really great, but I think in this context, this open hi-hat is a bit too long. I would think I would use this in the second half of the drop maybe, to level up the groove and keep it going. But for now, this is a bit too much, I think. So I'm going to use the hip-hop hi-hat and layer it with the first hi-hat. Sound selection done. The second step is gain staging. In other words, just find the right balance for every drum so they fit together as a good groove. This is important to have a clean basis for the next steps. Let's see in the project if the drums are balanced right or if we have to adjust something in the mix. I'm gonna solo the drums for this. Maybe the clap a little bit louder. Hi-hat a bit quieter. And in the clap, wait, I think it's nice, but I think the snappy clap, which we selected, is too loud, so it doesn't get the smack I want. Let's turn this down and see what it sounds like without the clap. Yeah, now it has a clear transient, so we want to keep this a bit lower than the other ones. Like this maybe. Listen to the drums again. Thank you. Alright, this big layer is also a bit too loud in my opinion. Maybe we can put the clap 1 in the mix as well, because it has a bit more tight transient. Once again. Alright, this should be fine. The third step is processing. The part where your drums smack, if needed actually. Sometimes I think the drums already are hard enough and they don't need much processing, but that really depends on your sound selection before. So, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you some drum processing, what I would do. I would go ahead and group each layer. You've seen it already, I have grouped my kicks, or just the one kick. I've grouped the claps, the hi-hats, and all the drums together. So all of these groups go into a big group called drums. This kick already, I like it, I wouldn't do much about it. The clap, however, could use a bit more attack. I've used an OTT to compress them and glue them together, and after that a transient processor to get more attack and less release, to get it tight and snappy. Listen without it, with it, just a teeny tiny bit louder and snappier. Now the hi-hats, right here, I've used just a compressor to glue the hi-hats together so they sound like one hi-hat. Because obviously it wouldn't make much sense to hear multiple hi-hats. You want to have multiple hi-hats, but they should sound as a one. Now in the drum group, this is where the most processing happens. We have a clipper to just rip some of the high peaks. After that, I have put a decapitator to get more grit out of the drums. Without it, with it, especially the kick gets beefed up, that's really cool. After that, a limiter to once again balance it and push the levels so that everything sounds great. As you can see here, the kick is being pushed down quite a lot, so maybe we can decrease the kick loudness so it doesn't have to compensate as much. Now I'm going to increase the ceiling a bit so it doesn't get squashed so much. And increase the gain so everything else below it gets a bit louder. Alright, this should be fine for some basic processing. Now I don't think there's any specific formula for this step or for any step really. Music's hard. You just gotta try and figure out what sounds good for the track. Sometimes you might even consider putting more creative effects on your drums, like chorus on the snare or more reverb delay on the claps so they feel bigger, whatever you need and whatever you like. Now the last step I think is important is the context. Do the samples fit after all? Have we chosen the right samples in step 1? Are the levels really right considering the rest of the instrumental? Are there enough effects or too many effects like reverb delay and stuff on it? And does the groove feel right on a musical level? Does the groove fit the track? If not, you can just take the samples, rearrange them a bit and see what fits, or just take another loop or another sample, fill some spaces, some gaps, accentuate some things in the instrumental, or leave some gaps on purpose. You can just try out everything basically. So let's do exactly that and listen to the whole thing again. Now I think the drums smack, but they're too loud compared to the rest. This is much better already. I think the hi-hat is too present. Right, I think after these snaps, the drums and the whole mix sound really solid. Now you can go off and get creative with everything, put more drums in, more percussion, and go on with your production. If you guys want the FLP file of the project, let me know in the comments and I'm gonna find a way to send it to you. If you like this format, let me know by liking the video, comment your favorite plugin I should test out, subscribe, and we'll see each other next Friday. Goodbye.